Once upon a time, in a cozy little village nestled right at the edge of a great green forest, lived a sweet and cheerful girl. Everyone in the village called her Little Red Riding Hood because she always wore a beautiful red cloak with a big hood that her grandmother had made for her. She wore it everywhere she went, and its bright color was like a little berry moving through the green landscape. One sunny morning, Little Red Riding Hood's mother called her into the kitchen. The air was filled with the delicious smell of freshly baked bread. "Your grandmother isn't feeling very well," her mother said, placing a warm loaf into a basket. She added some sweet butter, a jar of homemade jam, and some juicy, ripe apples. "I'd like you to take this basket to her. It will surely make her feel better." Little Red Riding Hood's face lit up. She loved visiting her grandmother, whose cottage was on the other side of the forest. "Of course, Mother," she said, eagerly taking the basket. As she put on her bright red cloak, her mother gave her a serious look. "Now, listen carefully," she warned. "Go straight to your grandmother's house, stay on the main path, and don't dawdle. And most importantly, do not talk to any strangers you might meet in the woods." Little Red Riding Hood nodded, her mind already on the journey ahead. "I promise, Mother, I'll be very careful." With a happy wave, she skipped out the door and headed towards the forest path. The forest was alive with sounds and sights. Sunlight streamed through the tall trees, dappling the path with golden light. Birds sang sweet melodies from the branches, and squirrels scampered up and down the tree trunks. Little Red Riding Hood hummed a happy tune as she walked, swinging her basket gently. The path was familiar, and she felt safe and content. But she wasn't alone for long. A little way into the woods, a pair of sharp, cunning eyes watched her from behind a thick bush. It was a big, sly wolf. He had been prowling the forest, looking for his next meal, and the sight of the little girl with her basket made his mouth water. He crept silently out from his hiding spot and stepped onto the path right in front of her. "Good morning, little girl," the wolf said with a wide, toothy grin that he tried to make look friendly. Little Red Riding Hood stopped, surprised. She remembered her mother's warning about talking to strangers, but the wolf seemed so polite and charming. She forgot all about her promise. "Good morning, Mr. Wolf," she replied with a polite curtsy. "And where might you be going on this fine day with such a heavy basket?" The wolf asked, his eyes gleaming. "I'm on my way to visit my grandmother," she answered innocently. "She lives on the other side of the forest, in a little cottage just past the big old oak tree." A wicked idea sparked in the wolf's mind. "Oh, how lovely!" he exclaimed. "But why are you rushing along this boring old path? Look over there." He pointed a paw towards a field filled with colorful wildflowers. "The flowers are so beautiful. Your grandmother would surely love a fresh bouquet. Why don't you take a little detour and pick some for her?" Little Red Riding Hood's eyes widened at the sight of the beautiful flowers. Reds, blues, and yellows dotted the meadow like little jewels. She thought what a wonderful surprise it would be for her grandmother. What a great idea! she said, smiling at the wolf. "Thank you, Mr. Wolf." And with that, she skipped off the main path and into the field of flowers, completely forgetting her mother's warning once again. The moment she was out of sight, the wolf's friendly smile vanished, replaced by a cunning grin. "Foolish girl," he chuckled to himself. He didn't waste a second. While Red was busy picking flowers, he took the most direct path and ran as fast as his legs could carry him, straight to the grandmother's cottage. He reached the little cottage in no time. He smoothed down his fur, tried to make his voice sound small and sweet, and knocked gently on the door. "Knock, knock, knock. Who's there?" called a weak voice from inside. "It's me, Grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf squeaked, trying to sound like the little girl. "I've brought you bread and fruit to make you feel better." "Oh, how wonderful, my dear," the grandmother called out. "The door is unlocked. Just lift the latch and come in." The wolf's grin grew even wider. He lifted the latch, slipped inside, and in a flash he had the poor old grandmother out of her bed and locked safely away inside a sturdy wooden wardrobe. He then found one of her frilly nightgowns and a sleeping cap, put them on, and climbed into the bed. He pulled the covers right up to his chin and waited. Meanwhile, Little Red Riding Hood had gathered a beautiful bouquet of flowers. She finally remembered she should be on her way and hurried back to the path. When she arrived at the cottage, she noticed the door was slightly ajar. "That's strange," she thought. She stepped inside, calling out, "Grandmother, I'm here." Everything seemed unusually quiet. She walked over to the bed and saw her grandmother lying there, but something looked very different. "Grandmother," she said, stepping closer, "what big ears you have." "From under the cap," the wolf replied, in a scratchy, high-pitched voice. "All the better to hear you with, my dear." Red leaned in a little more. "But grandmother, what big eyes you have." The wolf's eyes gleamed under the covers. "All the better to see you with, my dear." Little Red Riding Hood was starting to feel very nervous. Her voice trembled as she said, "But grandmother, what big teeth you have." The wolf could wait no longer. He threw back the covers and roared in his deep, gravelly voice, "All the better to eat you with." He leaped out of the bed, ready to pounce. Little Red Riding Hood screamed in terror and ran for the door. Just at that moment, a brave woodcutter was passing by the cottage. He heard the scream and knew something was terribly wrong. He burst through the door with his axe held high and saw the wolf chasing the little girl. With a mighty shout, he charged at the wolf. The terrified wolf, seeing the woodcutter's gleaming axe, yelped and fled out the window, running deep into the forest, never to be seen near the village again. The woodcutter then heard a faint knocking sound. He followed it to the wardrobe, unlocked it, and helped the frightened grandmother out. She and Little Red Riding Hood hugged each other tightly, both so relieved to be safe. "Oh, my dear child," Grandma said, holding her close, "thank you for the treats. But you gave me such a scare." Little Red Riding Hood looked down, her cheeks red with shame. She knew she had made a big mistake. From that day on, she never forgot her mother's words. She always stayed on the path, never dawdled.